excited that this is going on. I remember when I was, I think I was going into secondary school. I just entered secondary school. I took part in a writing competition. There was this couple that came from the UK to. I grew up in a small town called Akure, in the west here. So there was this couple that came from UK to Nigeria, and they started a Christian ministry, a Christian family ministry, and writing was a huge part of it. So they released periodic magazines for children. So there was a time they did a competition for writers, people to write stories, and so one of the prizes was, if you win that competition, you get to go to a workshop, a Christian writers workshop. And I just wrote for the love of writing at that time. And maybe I was second or third. I can't even remember what my position was. But the best part of it was being lodged in a hotel for 1 week. It was, and there was this, I can never forget this gentleman, a Christian that was brought in from Ghana, that wrote this fiction that I will never forget, that it wasn't exactly themed. My novel that I just released is very Christian. This man's book wasn't like very Christian, but it had, the theme was around poverty and discrimination and just the experience of a girl child growing up somewhere in Ghana and all of those things. But it was so gripping. It was so vivid. And at the end of the day, the young woman grew up, became a successful person. So I saw it in a sense as Joseph's story, set in a very relatable context, and the struggle she went through, forgiving the people who abused, forgiving the people who neglected, forgiving the people, So you can find yourself somewhere in that girl's story, an experience with some aunt somewhere that you lived with at some point in time, or one uncle that disappointed you somewhere, and all of those things, But more than the book, I remember that gentleman's spirit. It was so Christ-like. You just wanted to hang around him. I didn't even know whether it was called presence, but you just have peace when he's around. And there were other resource people, but it was just the one I understood. We watched movies, we had technical sessions, but everything was so focused on Christ. The presence of the Holy Spirit was there, and we rested. It was such a nice place to be in. It was a resort. So that's where we're going next now. So and look at me today, I'm a product of that workshop. And, we are emerging today, products of this kinds of training. Look, imagine, when God begins to promote and bless this work and it gets bigger because it's testing us, it will get bigger. And I think that the presence of God here, as strongly as it is today, is a witness that this is very important to God. Maybe we put it together here and there, we know we are responding to God, but we really maybe don't even know the import of what is probably going on. But, angels are here. This has the attention of heaven. We somehow tend to think that maybe we have to be saying a lot of amen and Holy Ghost and speaking in tongues and rolling the aisles and everything. But I tell you, the more invisible, the more spiritual. The more invisible, the more spiritual. So, when you are in kindergarten, they have to make a lot of noise to keep the attention of the children. Sometimes church is like that. When God sees that our level of maturity, he has to invent a lot of noisy things to keep our attention. And that's why people say to you, where's the God of the Old Testament? Who splits the rocks? Who, that very noisy God that will do thunder, and, and will, bears will come up, will fall and die suddenly, fire will come up. Where is the God of Elijah? Where is the God? We think that's the God. We are missing something. Where is that? But Jesus said to the sons of thunder, you don't even know what spirit. They were like, which kind of Jesus is this? You are too cool, this guy. Let's just call fire one time and consume these people. Why are you slow? Jesus said, no, it's not like that. Order has changed. You don't know the spirit. That thing that is making you want to call fire. It is true that you have the power to call fire, but what is motivating the fire is called anger. And because anger is motivating that fire, it is not the pure and highest and most powerful form of the will of God. So, you understand? So when the more invisible, the more spiritual. When you are dealing with invisible, you will see fire and it looks like power. But because anger is what is powering that fire, it is weak spiritually. Is not really doing the work. That's why Jesus at his weakest was the devil's highest undoing. As a lamb that was led to the slaughter without a word in his mouth. That was the undoing of Satan. The weakest moment of heaven was was the most powerful in a sense, So I want us to be, that's why I'm very happy with all the right, I'm so blessed today. And I'm very particularly happy with Deola. She has simplified my work. So I'm not going to focus a lot on the internet, even though I'll say one or two things. I'm going to focus on the Christian writer part because I'm supposed to speak about the Christian writer and the internet. And, I already began to say some of this, that you can either be a Christian writer or a Christian that writes. You can be either of the two. And I defined it this way, to say that a Christian writer is the one that writes, understanding his or her identity and his or her purpose. Very mindful of it, I will not compromise. A writer that is a Christian, or a Christian that writes, necessarily isn't so. The ideology of this person is probably related to Christianity. Maybe the person has even confessed Christ at some point or other. But the person believes in living other purposes other than Christ. So when it is convenient, the Christian ideology flows. When it is not convenient, it can identify with other things. So as far as I'm concerned, it's an identity issue. And being a Christian writer doesn't mean that that's the only thing you do. I just told you, I have a day job, and that's one of the reasons why I'm really rushing, because I have to go back to my day job. I didn't take the entire day off. I have a day job. I work in public policy advocacy. I do a lot of writing that is entirely academic. So it doesn't. So when I say a Christian, it doesn't mean that maybe in the morning, you are just throughout the day, all you are doing, 5 to 9, 9 to 5, all you do is write. I'm just trying to say that position that drives you as a Christian writer probably is what is likely to be. If you're a Christian writer, you're likely to be a Christian everything else. You understand? You are likely to be a Christian mom. You are likely to be a Christian wife. You are likely to be a Christian employee. You are likely to be a Christian everything else. Because that is your life's purpose. Every gift, every expression, everything that you do comes from there. Comes from there, not just that, this casual, we are giving glory to God. Anything you do, you give glory. No, it's not that casual thing. It's an allegiance thing. It's an identity thing. I'm an Hebrew, I don't bow. That's what the 3 Hebrew children said to, sorry, king, it's not that we want to disobey you. But when you are born Hebrew, you don't bow before other gods. That's just it. So whether that thing meets me in the office, or it meets me as a writer, or it meets me as a mom, this is my spiritual identity. It is what fuels every expression of my life. That's what it means to be a Christian writer. So, to be, if that is who we are, if it is not that we are people who pander to Christian ideology and write, and sometimes that comes out in the things that we write, then I think that there are some problems that are naturally solved and others that are naturally created. Let me give you a problem that is naturally solved. A problem that is naturally solved is the problem of trying to make this writing your source of livelihood, your source of validation, your source of affirmation. I don't know whether you understand what I'm trying to say. It is not that it takes away desire for success. I think that God made man with that natural, although Satan perverted some of it, as with everything else. But it's not like maybe that means that you want to be a mediocre, you never want to improve, you never want to reach people on social media, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there's one undue pressure that comes, that makes us compare ourselves with ourselves and with other people. And we are focusing on what we should be focusing on. We are majoring on the minor and we are minoring on the major. I think when you come to the place of rest, that I'm a Christian writer, I'm not a Christian that writes, then who are you answering to? That single thing which will solve a lot of problems. It will answer a lot of questions in your heart. It will settle a lot of things. It will bring light when there's darkness and confusion. Who am I answerable to? This thing that I'm writing, this thing I'm putting on the internet, this thing I'm putting on social media, this thing I'm putting on Facebook, this thing I'm putting on, who am I answerable to? Am I answerable to my base, like a politician? Am I answerable to my fans, or am I pleasing Christ? This ideology, this position that I'm taking on this issue, because, on social media, I think that I have a grace for a thrust, in the sense that there are some posts, not all. I've done a post before. I've done several posts that really didn't gain traction. I don't care about what gains traction, what doesn't gain traction, how many likes. I still did a post, I think last week, or it's not up to 2 weeks. By the time I went back to check the stats on that post, I was shocked about how many likes, how many shares, I think it just struck a chord and hit. But to me, I didn't even expect people to like it. You know why? Because there was something I addressed in that post, and I called it the new stupid cool. I called it the new stupid cool because something comes into town, everybody wants to sound intellectual. And while you are sounding intellectual, you become a stupid Christian. And you join other voices to mock your own faith. You join other because you want to sound cool, you want to sound modern, you want to sound 21st century, you want to sound like you can think. But like I was saying, the more invisible, the more spiritual. Let me tell you what I think the trick has been from the beginning. Has God said? And that's where the power of words is very, 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 very important. And we are the people who are still answering Eve and saying that God has said. Did you get what I said? Christian writers are the ones who are still answering the question of Eve and saying to her, God has said, because there's Eve in every human being. It's called lust. We are the ones answering that question of God has said. And let me tell you why the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is very appealing to human lust. Because it is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That's why. That good of the tree is what makes it look innocent. So, feminism is supposed to be equality, right? Isn't that what it's supposed to be? And people have conflict with me because in my day job, I do a lot of work around equality, women's rights. And I'm deeply for equality. In fact, in the traditional sense, I usually say it, my wife material is 1 yard of cheap china. I have a strong personality. I am very vocal. I'm not the typical housewife. You put water, you meet it there, you sit down, you submit all that much. But I'm not going to make a mistake to say that because I find that in my personality and it is at conflict with some of the ideals of God's word. I'm not going to say that feminism is what will answer it for me. No, feminism won't answer it for me. Rebellion will not solve equality. That's what happens. We take one evil spirit and try to use it to quench another evil spirit. But the enemy doesn't show us as evil spirit. He will present it as good. So he will bring it in one fine name, feminism. And it will look good. Honestly, there's a good part of it. The equality part of it is good. It's civil rights. We should have equal rights. It is, and I walk there daily. And I preach this, women's rights, equal rights thing. But I'm not stupid. I know that this thing, it is the answer of the world. It is not the answer of God. And the answer of God looks stupid. But that's why the wisdom of God is wiser than, the foolishness of God is wiser than the wisdom of men. God says, you think God didn't know that there will be this much abuse and subjugation of women? And he said, wives, submit to your own husbands. As Christ is the head, there's a wisdom there. There's an undoing of Satan there. And that thing is anti-human nature. We don't see it, we can't embrace it, but that's what is meant to change us. The laws of God are not there so that we can make heaven. They are there so that we can change. They are there so that we can change. Traditional religion teaches us that if we obey enough laws, we'll make heaven. No, we have already made heaven because we We have accepted Jesus. So the laws of God are not about making heaven. The laws of God is about changing the configuration of human beings, because somebody has reconfigured us in a bad way. So as a Christian writer, whether you're writing poem, whether you're writing fiction, whether you're writing Christian literature in the sense of, very direct and everything, I think that it is very important for us to settle this question of identity and purpose. Identity and purpose. Where you come from. The purpose of your being here. It will influence everything. Having said that, there are themes and ideas that I receive in a very supposedly spiritual way. Like maybe I dream and I wake up and I know that there's a story here or there's something to be addressed here. I keep an ideas file. My day job doesn't allow me to attack writing immediately every time. So I keep an ideas file. There's a place where I just quickly put down something, and you should learn to do that. Keep an ideas. If something comes to you, keep it there. The season of that thing will come back, and you go back to that file. Keep an ideas file. And make sure you have that file not just on one system, in case that system crashes. So I keep an ideas, but that's not the only place my ideas come from. Sometimes I'm with a group of people or somewhere and I hear a story. I was saying how the story on my website comes from stories that my grandmother told me when we were young. So it's not everything that is, in a sense, like maybe because I'm a Christian writer, I have to levitate and wait for visitations or something like that. It's not that weird, But what I'm trying to say is that even when that idea, that story, whatever God uses to inspire something that I want to write, I am very deliberate. And I'm encouraging us to all be. There are times when I feel like reacting to something, but I've learned a habit of waiting. I have an audience on Facebook. I have, once I react to something, people start liking, they start sharing, that thing can intoxicate you. And you feel like an authority. And you become a law and a wisdom to yourself. And I said a long time ago, about 6 years ago, I said to myself, I was reading Americana, and I said to my husband, this book is a very interesting book. I said, but there's something I see about this girl. She is passing our boundaries in the spirit. That was 6 years ago. I was reading Americana. I loved I preached Americana to everybody. That I came and go, have you seen Americana? Have you seen Americana? I'll be in US and I'll be talking to colleagues, that we do internet policy together. You need to read Americana. One girl says she's Spanish. Of course, she's Spanish. I knew Amalia was Spanish. I said, this thing is in Spanish. You need to see it. It was the proudest Nigerian work that I was very proud of that work. But the lady herself, I couldn't confide in everybody because not everybody will understand me. I said, this lady, she's passing her boundary. She's not Christian. I wasn't expecting her to be Christian. But I saw something. When an evil spirit whispers to you that you have become an authority that you are not, and begins to feed you a wisdom that is contrary, it looks normal. Everything in Americana looks normal. I just knew that there's a new level of authority in this book, and it is spiritual and it is of Satan. That's what I knew about. She had written other books, but Americana came with an authority. Americana came with an authority. And I knew it. And, recently I saw her on Harvard stage. She was giving a commencement speech. I said, that is it. She has been anointed. That is it. The next thing on Twitter, I started reading how she's saying that African people are ignorant because they say that gay and homosexual is not in their history and they are rejecting it. And now she's speaking. She is the face of extreme liberalism, gay homosexuality, and she will shame you for saying that you are a wife and a mother, and you started from women's rights. Maybe you say you are protecting my rights. Why are you invalidating my choices? If I'm happy to be a wife, since when did that become a problem? It's called witchcraft, manipulation and control. It's called witchcraft. That is what it is. That is proper. We are in church now. We are praying, fall down and die. Those are the witches. That is proper witchcraft. And she's mentoring a whole generation. She's mentoring a whole generation everywhere. Chimamanda, everywhere. Harvard commencement speech. That is anointing from her. They have lifted her. She has been anointed. She has passed her test in the spirit. God forgive me, like President Barack Obama. Antichrist spirit. And we are here, we don't know what it is. That is Antichrist. I'm saying this thing because we are Christian writing. Maybe you said I should talk about Christian writing. Yes, this is Christian writing. Those are the people that you are up against. So when they say up your skill, please don't feel protective of your territory. You know, we're having a conversation about inspiration, creativity, and don't feel territorial. Don't feel intimidated when they say up your skill. It doesn't take away your spiritual something. If your book is somehow, let us tell you in this forum that is somehow. Excuse me, brother, you are writing nonsense. Do you get? Let's tell you here. Let's tell you. It doesn't mean the inspiration is not there. It's not. Those people who are doing it in the world, they are anointed by the evil one. I was with a family, some time ago outside the country, and they gifted me some books. They know that I like. So when I said I was going to come visiting, they bought some books and gave me. One of them was a very nice Ghanaian writer, story writer. I like Ghanaians. They write very well. They write extremely well. Ghanaian writers. And this book, I read it through my husband said, this one has passed jet lag. This reading you are reading. I read it in the morning, night. I would not sleep. I was so interested in that book. But as captivating as that book is, the theme was essentially the acceptance of homosexual and lesbian culture. Somewhere. Then a lot up to around slave trade. And how the West brought Christianity to spoil our civilization, our land, to mess up our thinking. So Christianity was messed up. Christianity was blamed for slave trade. Christianity was blamed for slave trade. Christianity was messed up. All the people that were portrayed as Christians were portrayed as perverts. In fact, somewhere in the 1970s, during the war of Ashantewa, have you heard about the Ashantewa, the lady who led the war of the golden stool in Ghana? There was a story in that book around a priest, a Christian priest, who burned someone alive in the bush secretly because the person got pregnant outside of wedlock, and so the priest said you're a sinner or something like that. And went to burn the girl or something, but I think I can't remember, maybe the girl gave birth to baby first or something, but somewhere in the line there was a ripple effect in that girl's family based on what had happened to her. So reading the book, you'd be like, how can somebody be this wicked? The priest was the wicked person. Christianity was blamed, the ideology and the priest was painted as someone who himself was struggling with conflicts, like homosexual conflicts and everything. So he really needed to blame. So you understand that kind of a thing, like he couldn't resolve conflicts within himself, so he blamed another person and he burned again. Everywhere you look in the corner of that book, you see that Christianity is the same thing as slave trade and white hypocrisy, and it is the problem of Africa, and it is the reason why we don't accept gay and lesbianism, because that thing was also introduced because the white man told us and mashed our brain into potato to believe everything he says in the name of Christ. So it's called the white man's God, and we do everything he says to us. But you will read that book. It's a very good read. It's harmless. I finished it in like 2 or 3 nights. Very lovely book. But you see the nonsense that is there. But you would accept it's okay. I mean, it's good read. So that is what we are up against to Christian writers. This is what, and imagine now you now write fiction, and your first line is, Ade was going. He was going. And he opened the door and he entered the house. And he said, Shade, are you there? And he said, yes. Then he said, why am I not having followers on social media? Why are people not buying the books? The inspiration is from God, but why if the inspiration is God that gave me the words? No, God didn't give you the words. Does God speak English? Excuse me, hello. God didn't give you anything. No. God gave you something. I mean, he gave you the most important thing. He gave you inspiration. But let me make it clear. God doesn't speak English. And he doesn't speak Yoruba. God is spirit. You are speaking English because you went to school in English and somebody spoke English to you. And you are limited in English because your education or your exposure is limited. So don't put it on the Holy Ghost. Don't blame the Holy Spirit for this thing now, Biko. It's not Holy Spirit matter. It's not Holy Spirit matter. Excuse me. Where did you go to school? Secondary school. Hey, England. Say it again. Say it again. Say it again. Say it again. England. It's different from my own. England. It's even cool. You see me, I'm talking as if somebody's giving me injection. England. Then when he's speaking in English, you just be as if they're pouring cold water on you. You are gone. England gave the boy a weapon. I didn't go to England to school, but I can cover distance from my own England here, and I will not pretend as if I don't need England, because people are reading in English. So if I need to take English courses, I will. Don't pretend. If you need to take English courses, do it. If you need, sister said she's taking online writing courses. She's doing BA in English. You think she doesn't know what she's doing? Is it because she's shooting shelling guns? She has been talking to me there. She speaks very nice English, but she's doing BA in English. She must be looking for something. I've downloaded books. I've read books on writing. All of them were not Christian writers. But, I have a foundation that gives me a lot of discernment by the grace of God that allows me to sieve things. That is what is important. So we are Christian writers, identity, purpose. Bury yourself in the word and in the spirit and understand the battle for the soul. Understand the battle of words. Understand as God really said. That's where everything came from. Understand that battle. Where you it's not that maybe every time you are writing, you'll not be writing the consciousness of, I'm trying to, but it's like a reservoir, like I said, because it will change your prayer life, it will change your study life, it will change your arsenal in the spirit. So whichever way you turn, whether you are on the podium somewhere talking to senators like I do sometimes, and I cannot say in Jesus' name there. In fact, they will say, let a Christian pray, let a Muslim pray. You have to say Amina to the Muslim prayer. It doesn't take anything away from me. There's a spirit in man. It's the inspiration of God that gives me understanding. And that spirit is not limited. It is not limited. Just the way that somebody can say innocent songs and spirits will be jumping on people. Yeah. I can bring my own innocence and the Holy Spirit will go and torment that person in the night and he'll start crying. You just leave some people. You've not said anything. They just come across your right. I wrote something on Facebook one day and somebody called me from the US and said, the person said, what is the will of God? I'm like, which kind of question is, what is the will of God? Okay. And then it says, a born man. You'll be here, you'll be envying him that, this boy has it all nice, nice schools, parents can send you abroad. And he was tired of life. He has a good job, but he's deeply dissatisfied with his life. It feels like how can you be feeling like a failure? You guys, you are earning in dollars. Feeling failure of what? feeling failure. But deep dissatisfaction. And I believe that it was the Holy Spirit that used a simple post to take his peace away. This is someone that I know him here and there. He mocks Christianity, not directly. Do you get? But he's just a happy boy that doesn't believe in anything. But you see him on the surface, you think he's so tough. This one, nothing can penetrate him and everything. But something will go and be worrying him in the night. So that's what we are meant to be. And let me just quickly touch a bit of the internet. She has done a fantastic, I'm not even going to say anything that she has already said. But let me talk about a bit of the internet part of it. When you are writing, as maybe you are as a blogger or maybe on social media or whatever it is, she has already spoken to the stats and promoting and everything. This is what I want to say. Be careful of pressure. Be very careful of pressure. A brother said 1 year. 1 year is small. Keep at it. Keep at it. Keep growing it. Just don't, there's something I say in the development sector. There's something I say to people all the time. Today, you say you are dealing with climate change. Then tomorrow you come, you say you have changed it's malaria now. Then the next one you say, what are you say HIV is? That's what you are working on now. Then tomorrow you come, you say agricultural development. Hello? There are people like that they don't, you are not consistent. You are not striking enough. Like the story of Elisha and that guy that he told to go and shoot the arrow. And then the guy came back when he had not struck enough. And he said, why did you stop at the time you stopped? You were just on the verge. Sometimes you are on the verge, just one last post, and you have taken over Lagos. Like that. And you are all over the place. I'm not in it. People say to me all the time, oh, you are so popular, you are so this. Yeah, no, not like so popular. Like, you are so anointed. And I'm saying this, I just feel free to say it. I mean, I'm not proud or anything. I don't even know. But I'm just saying, just to, make what I'm saying to hit home more. You're so anointed. Nobody knows you're supposed to be preaching everywhere. You're supposed to be do so. What I know is that premature exposure is the quickest death you can die in your entire life. And every self-promotion that you get by your own power, be ready to keep it by your own power 10 times more. And that stress, what the enemy will do with that stress, to first of all lead you off the course of the will of God for your life, and then to finish you, to make you go back on your values, and then to finish you in a bad place. So we are not here to be popular. We are not here for likes. We are not here for shares. We are here for the will of God. It's God that owns the gospel. And let my own be obedience now. Let my own be obedience. Is it not the gospel of Jesus? Is it my gospel? But there's a bit of self-promotion, a bit of, I want to be known, I want to be heard, I want to be popular here and there. And sometimes God will put those delays, those blockades to protect you, so that those things are sufficiently taken care of. Because when you become popular, when one person will disagree with you, Christian writer, hello, prepare for rejection. Prepare very well for rejection. Because when that time comes and one person will disagree with you, first of all, not sleep. First of all, you start responding. On Twitter, they'll find you everywhere, defending yourself. You start responding everywhere. So, because your reputation is what is at stake. But if your reputation has been dead before you got here, because God has killed it in secret, used process, delay, waiting, the times when people have despised you, they didn't even see you. Who is this one? As in, they greeted everybody, they didn't greet you. Your everything has died before you got to the stage. That weapon doesn't touch you anymore. It doesn't touch you anymore. So prepare for rejection. So as they are covering you now, you're not yet popular. It's very good, because when you get popular, there will be a lot of things that at that time will come at you. So don't be under pressure. Just keep at obedience. Keep consistent. Why am I not posting? Is it because of discouragement? If it is not because of discouragement, if it's not because of what people will say, keep at it. Even though, that consistency at the end of the day, when you strike enough and the divine timing is right, Kairos time comes, you break through. Don't check stats too much. Adela talked about stats. Don't check it too much. Every minute you put a post now, then you go back, you are checking how many likes. You will go into disillusionment and discouragement. Check it for the reasons she said. To do your research. Who is here? What are they saying? How do they think? What is the persona of the average person that visits this site or that reads this post? And how better can I tailor my message to speak to this person? But not for popularity. Are they liking me? Are they sharing me? Are they commenting? Do you understand? If people are not engaging, you should do your research to find out why they are not engaging and how you can engage more. But it's not a reflection on your personality about whether you are a success, you are a failure, or you are interesting, or you are boring, or you are anointed, or you are not. I think that's also important. Interactiveness. Be yourself. When you are posting online, let your personality come through in your content, you know. Let people be able to say, this is how Tope talks, if they were to meet me in person. So I won't go preachy on social media. Like, if preachy is another person's style, yes, but you know, that person, the person that is behind the content, because that's one thing that draws people out to engage. So be relatable, be yourself, make sure you are connecting and your personality is shining through. I think everything that is Adiola already said. Be easy, please, easy to read. It's very important. I think she mentioned that, but I want to reiterate it. There are some Christian posts that I see. There are some school runs. there are some posts that I see, Christian posts, that only you can understand that post. Maybe another person that attends your church. Because the language, even me that I'm a Christian that attends another fellowship, I can't understand, because what you are saying is as if cult people are speaking. Have you seen those kind of posts before? It's as if cult people are speaking. So be, as much as possible, be easy to read. Wow, so much time has gone. As much as possible, be easy to read and edit, but don't chase perfection. Okay, somebody was talking about the fact that you write something, then you go back maybe a few years later and you're like, what was I thinking when I wrote this thing? I think if you come back in 5 years, you still feel that way. So at some point, you just put it out. When you are convinced enough, you just put it out. In conclusion, I think that the best gift that a Christian writer can give to his or her audience is their own walk with God. That's the best gift. It's not your talent, it's not your creativity, it's not your English, it's not your skill. If you are bitter, your bitterness will come through. If you are arrogant, your arrogance will come through. That spirit will go and latch on another person. And the person would think that they are sharing revelation. They will not know that they have contacted the spirit of pride from you. If you are joyless, your joylessness will come through. And you give birth to people who will start attacking other people up and down the place. But if you have a fellowship with God, then your writing will be transformational. Because whatever you'll be writing, it'll be coming from your relationship with God. I think I'm done. I don't know if we have any questions. Any questions, please?
Thank you very much, Ma. Okay, I want to ask this question. Many a times I'm inspired to write what I've not even experienced. So how do I don't even know how to put the question now. How do I try to convey it when I've not even experienced it? That's the first question. And how, as a Christian writer, how do you connect your character every time with what you write, so that you not be as though you are deceiving people? Thank you.
Okay, for the first one, in terms of having not experienced something and writing about it, research is the answer. You have to do a lot of research in that. And research is not just maybe you sit behind a computer and you're researching about a certain kind of person. Sometimes you have to go to people who have gone through what you want to write about and ask them questions. You have to listen in on other people's conversation. You have to gather as much information about that. For instance, my novel that I have there is about 4 women, and I've not been in any of them's shoes. You know, like, there's one that has experienced extreme abuse, different issues, someone that is going through a divorce and things like that. I've never been divorced. I've never had some of those deep experiences. But in talking to people, in reading about what happens to persons that go through this kind of abuse when they are small, I think you develop and enrich your character with relatable experiences. Then I think your second question is about how do you connect the character in a way that relates. I think it's still related. For me, what I do is I create the characters in my head. I don't create them as I go along. I try to create the characters that come as I go along are flat characters, like he called it. The main characters are created ahead. So the identity of that person is consistent throughout and sometimes I back up. I go and read from chapter 1 to 5 in order to write chapter 6. Because that identity has to be consistent throughout the. So I've created a Vera, I've created Helen. This is this kind of person. She's fickle. She's very Christian. She's very nice, but she's very fickle in her decisions. She panders to what people likes. It keeps developing. Sometimes your character will develop over your story because you add more to that person, because there's an incident that happens and there's a certain response that you want. So you have to back up, build certain things into that character. Sometimes it's by way of description. Sometimes it's by way of describing an event that enables people to know that, okay, this is how this person is, or this is how this person responds. So that when an incident now happens, so when you are writing, it's a lot of going back and forth, building up, coming back, researching, adding, and you can write a book over 5 years, a single book, because you are fleshing out and making it more relatable. And yeah, I hope I helped. Thank you very much.